Dear friends, welcome to the channel The Eastern Front. Today I will make an unusual release. We will talk about the famous order number 227, which is called Not a Step Back. I think many of you have heard the expression burn ships. When the decision is made to go to the end and either die or win. It was at such a difficult moment for the Soviet Union and the entire people that Stalin made a decision under the number 227. In the West, this order causes a lot of talk. Some consider him criminal, cruel and inhuman. Some use him for propaganda purposes, to further demonize the personality of Stalin, and some believe that there was simply not other way out. Today we will try to understand this issue. The order was signed on 28 July 1942, on the 402nd day of the war. The Red Army's spring offensive near Kharkov ended in tragedy. At the end of June they broke through the front in the southwestern direction, and in mid-July they entered the Big Bend of the Don, creating a real threat of breakthrough in the Stalingrad direction. In early July, after 250 days of heroic defense, Sevastopol fell. This gave the enemy the opportunity to release the troops besieged to the hero city and use them in another direction. In the summer of 1942, the German command launched an offensive to the south, under threat of seizing the oil fields of Grozny and Baku, and to the Volga, which connects the European parts of the country with Transcaucasia and Central Asia. Late in the evening, at 23:35 on 27 July 1942, the Colonel General Alexander Mikhailovich Vasilevsky, appointed to the post of Chief of the General Staff, crossed the threshold of the Stalin's Kremlin office. The Supreme Commander instructed him to prepare a draft order on measures to strengthen discipline and order in the Red Army and the prohibition of unauthorized withdrawal from combat positions. He immediately carried out Stalin's instructions. However, according to Vasilevsky, practically nothing remained of the original text. Stalin took his project and radically rewrote it. The intensive work took just over 4 hours. At 4 a.m. on 28 July 1942, Vasilevsky left the office with a signed order. Stalin did not schedule a meeting with anyone else all day. The psychological tension of last night was so strong. So, let's figure out what the order is about and make an analysis of it. The enemy throws more and more forces to the front and regardless of losses that are great for him, climbs forward, rushes deep into the Soviet Union, captures new areas, devastates and ruins our cities and villages, rapes, robs and kills the Soviet population. Fighting is taking place in the Voronezh region, on the Don, in the south and at the gates of the North Caucasus. The German occupiers are rushing to Stalingrad, to the Volga, and want to seize the Kuban, the North Caucasus with their oil and grain riches at any cost. The enemy has already captured Luhansk, Starobilsk, Rostov, Kupiansk, Voluki, Novocherkassk, Rostov-on-Don, half of Voronezh. Parts of the troops of the Southern Front, following the alarmists, left Rostov and Novocherkassk without the serious resistance and without orders from Moscow, covering their banners with shame. The population of our country, which treats the Red Army with love and respect, become disappointed with it, loses faith in the Red Army, and many of them curse the Red Army for putting our people under the yoke of the German oppressors, while the Red Army flees to the east. Some not so smart people at the front comfort themselves by saying that we can continue to retreat to the east, since we have a lot of land, a lot of population, and that we will always have bread in abundance. This is how they want to justify their shameful behavior at the front. But such conversations are completely false and deceitful, beneficial only to our enemies. Every commander, Red Army soldier and political worker should understand that our means are not unlimited. The territory of the Soviet state is not a desert, but people, workers, peasants, intellectuals, our fathers, mothers, wives, brothers and children. The territory of the USSR, which the enemy has captured and is trying to capture, is bread and other products for the army and the rear. metal and fuel for industry, factories supplying the army with weapons and ammunition, railways. After the loss of Ukraine, Belarus, the Baltic states, Donbass and other regions, we have much less territory, which means there are much fewer people, bread, metal factories. We have lost more than 70 million people, more than 800 million pounds of bread per year, and more than 10 million tons of metal per year. We no longer have an advantage over the Germans either in human reserves or in grain reserves. To retreat further means to ruin yourself and ruin our homeland at the same time. Every new piece of territory we have left, we strengthen the enemy in every possible way and weaken our defense, our homeland in every possible way. Therefore, it's necessary to fundamentally stop talking about the fact that we have the opportunity to retreat endlessly, that we have a lot of territory, our country is large and rich, there is a lot of population and bread will always be in abundance. Such talk is false and harmful. It weakens us and strengthens the enemy. Because if we don't stop retreating, we will be left without bread, without fuel, without metal, without raw materials, without factories, without railways. It follows from this that it's time to end the retreat, now a step back. This should now be our main call. It's necessary to persistently, to the last drop of blood, defend every position, every meter of Soviet territory, cling to every piece of Soviet land and defend it to the last opportunity. Our homeland is going through difficult days. We must stop and then push back and defeat the enemy, no matter what it cost us. The Germans are not as strong as it seems to alarmists. They are straining their last strength. To withstand their blow now, in the next few months, means to ensure victory for us. Can we withstand the blow and then push the enemy back to the west? Yes, we can, because of our factories in the rear are now working perfectly, and our front is receiving more and more planes, tanks, artillery, mortars. So, what are we missing? There is a lack of order and discipline in companies, battalions, regiments, divisions, tank units and air squadrons. This is now our main drawback. We must establish the strictest order and iron discipline in our army if we want to save the situation and defend the motherland. It's impossible to tolerate further commanders, commissars, political workers, whose units and formations voluntarily leave combat positions. It cannot be tolerated further when commanders, commissars, political workers allow a few alarmists to determine the situation on the battlefield, so that they drag other fighters into retreat and open the front to the enemy. Alarmists and cowards should be exterminated on the spot. From now on, the iron law of discipline for every commander, Red Army soldier and political worker should be a requirement, not a step back without an order from the high command. The commanders of a company, battalion, regiment, division, the relevant commissars and political workers retreating from a combat position without an order from above are traitors to the motherland. It's necessary to deal with such commanders and political workers as with the traitors to the motherland. This is the call of our motherland. To carry out this order means to defend our land, save the motherland, exterminate and defeat the hated enemy. After the winter retreat under the pressure of the Red Army, when discipline was shaken in the German troops, the Germans took some harsh measures to restore discipline, which led to good results. They formed more than 100 penal companies of fighters guilty of violating discipline due to cowardice or instability, put them on dangerous sections of the front and ordered them to atone for their sins with blood. They formed further about a dozen penal battalions of commanders guilty of violating discipline through cowardice or instability, stripped them of their orders, put them on even more dangerous sections of the front and ordered them to atone for their sins. They finally formed special detachments of the barrier, put them behind unstable divisions and told them to shoot alarmists on the spot in case of an attempt to surrender. As you know, these measures have had their effect, and now the German troops are fighting better than they fought in winter. And so it turns out that the German troops have good discipline. All through they don't have a lofty goal of defending their homeland. But there is only one predatory goal: to conquer a foreign country, and our troops, who have a lofty goal of defending their homeland, don't have such discipline and suffer defeat because of this. Shouldn't we learn from our enemies in this matter, as our ancestors learned from enemies in the past and then won over them? I think it should. The Supreme Command of the Red Army orders: absolutely eliminate the retreating mood in the troops and stop propaganda with an iron hand that we can and should supposedly retreat further to the east, that there will be no harm from the retreat, unconditionally removed from the post and sent to the headquarters to bring the military court the army commanders, who allowed the unauthorized withdrawal of troops from their positions without the order from the front command. On the front line, formed from 1 to 3 depending on the situation, penal battalions, 800 people each, were to send middle and senior commanders and relevant political workers of all branches of the armed forces who have been guilty of violating discipline due to cowardice and instability, and put them on more difficult sections of the front and give them the opportunity to redeem with blood their crimes against the motherland. As can be seen from the order, it concerns everyone, including commissars and commanders, and not just ordinary Red Army soldiers. There were also penal battalions in the German troops, and they appeared earlier than in the Red Army. In one of the videos, I did a detailed overview of the formation of the barrage detachments, what they were created for, what they did, and we also examined the myth associated with them. The link will appear in the right corner. The essence of Order 227 is the organization of penal battalions. While, unlike the German penal battalions, in the Soviet ones it was possible to return to their unit after being wounded. In total, over the years of the war, a little more than 400,000 fighters and commanders passed through the penal units, which is approximately 1.24% of the 34.5 million who passed through the country's armed forces during this period. Officers' command positions in these units and divisions were held by officers who were not among the members of penalty battalion. Junior command positions could be temporarily assigned to members of penalty battalion who had proven themselves on the positive side. Like the enemy in the Red Army, soldiers in such battalions were used in the most dangerous areas. In particular, they were used for reconnaissance by combat before the start of an operation. The fighters were also tasked with breaking through the enemy's defenses, both in order to distract his forces and to seize and hold strategic heights and bridgeheads. Sometimes the penal guards were instructed to conduct battles of local significance in order to bind the forces of the Germans in this direction. It happened that they covered the withdrawal of their units to pre-prepared positions. That's what the frontline soldiers said about this order. Before that, our propaganda protected our peace of mind. We left the city a week ago and the radio in order not to worry the listeners. Reports that heavy fights is going on in the city. We are used to calming untruth, and in this order the bitter truth was not hidden from us. It means that the matter is really very bad and the hour has come, either to yield to the enemy or to die. It wasn't just me who thought so, almost everyone thought so. And the barrage detachments, we didn't even think about them. We knew that our losses from panic were greater than in battles. We were interested in the barrage detachments. Today, thinking about Order 227, I understand what the power of truth is. When they lied consolingly to us, we retreated and reached the Volga. When they told us the truth, we began to advance and reached Berlin. I hate the philosophy of cowards. It's not cowards who win, but people who have conquered fear in themselves. Personally, I consider Stalin's decision wise and timely, which saved Russia, because otherwise it would have been torn to pieces and destroyed not only Russians, but also hundreds of other nationalities and peoples living on this territory. For me, this order is more like talking with a friend in the kitchen with a cup of tea. It's not just about creating penal battalions, but about how worse things are going on in the front. and how the destiny of the whole country depends on every soldier. Dear friends, that's all for today. It was Tim and the Eastern Front channel. I would be glad to hear your opinion about this topic. And as usual, I wish you peace and health. See you.